Welcome back to Sunrise Today. We're keeping our focus on the release, or is it the return of the Dapchi schoolgirls. Unfortunately, reports say 5 of them died in that process, but there's still one that's not been returned yet. But Mr. Shutungu, let me stay with you on the matter, because before we went to break, we were talking about the convoy. But if we backtrack, we also do know that in Boko Haram, before 2015, this scenario played itself out. And we also do remember asking questions on this program at the time that how come the government at the time, which was former President Jonathan, why didn't we, because we had help, at least they told us that they were going to help Western countries provide intelligence, perhaps satellite images. We didn't see anyone talk about, well, what kind of intelligence cooperation do we have? How is it that they move in convoy? Who owns those vehicles? Who are those sponsoring it? So what is it with the capacity of government to always make those kind of information available to the people?
Well, you know, well, to be fair to the government, it's not all information that they can disclose. As a matter of fact, the international community, you know, their intelligence agencies themselves will not be comfortable, you know, if the information were given. Even not only in Nigeria, I mean, you remember there was this episode with Donald Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, where Trump got an information about. But in any case, the point that was being made at that time was that it endangers or subverts, you know, the ability of the person who is supplying the information to be disclosed. But you made a very good point, and I was actually about to make it, that is that the fact that by now, I mean, it is realistic to expect that there will be a satellite monitor, so monitoring that area, that corridor, you know, northeastern, and it couldn't have eluded that kind of target. But the point then is, well, you know, when Jonathan was there, well, what I heard, I mean, there was no way I would corroborate it, was that it got to a time that the agencies, the intelligence agencies of these developed Western countries, it got to a point that when they give an information about Boko Haram, it will be leaked. It will be leaked to Boko Haram themselves. So they'll, from that, you know, that, well, it was no longer safe, you know, to give security information to Nigerian authorities again any longer. So there has been this mischief, but as I said, well, you know, it increasingly looks impossible, almost impossible.
So the second part of that is, the government at that time too told us that they were going to release the names of sponsors of Boko Haram at the time. So if they knew they were not going to do it, why did they tell us they were going to do it?
No, but they were trying some, I think some senators for it.
No, that's a separate case, because they said the list of sponsors of Boko Haram, Jonathan's government said they were going to do it. They didn't do it.
Maybe, well, I don't think that was, you have to be discreet about these things, and can you prove it? That somebody will, can you prove it legally? Will the case stand up in court, for instance?
Speaking about that particular scenario, if it will stand in court or not, let me fast forward to this government, which you're a member of the party. I know that there was a court judgment recently, which did say that the government should publish the names of looters, the same principle now, looters, and how much they recovered from them, the circumstances under which that was recovered. Now, in this particular case, this is a court directive. The AGF did admit they were going to do that, but that hasn't happened. So perhaps that also speaks to the fact that even when there's justification to obey, that hasn't been obeyed. So it speaks to capacity or what government always want to do. But let me now bring it back to security. This government now, if we have the capacity to have satellite up there to monitor these things, why is that not happening? Isn't that a failure on the part of government as well?
Well, you cannot compare this government with the previous administration.
We expect them to do better, isn't it?
Because this government takes actions.
What action have they taken with respect to giving us images of the satellite pictures?
You know, it could be destroyed.
What?
It could be destroyed if you... Well, satellite images...
Satellite
well,
could be destroyed?
No, that one cannot be seen. I thought we were talking about mounting an antenna or building masts and all that to check my distance, but it can... There's certain things we don't know.
Isn't government inexcusable if they know that
those of us,
they want to do better than the previous government? So if they haven't provided that information...
And I wanted to take you back.
It's a failure, isn't it?
I wanted to take you back. In the previous admission, they never didn't believe that the girls were kidnapped.
That's then. We're talking about now.
Then. Well, the girls were kidnapped and we brought the girls back. That's the difference. But we're talking about, you know, what frightened me this morning is that we are talking about the money. We're not talking about the girls.
Why does it frighten you?
Why? I mean, the emphasis is that we must bring the girls back. And the girls have been brought back.
Yeah, but
if people are talking about money, why are you changing the narrative?
No, but if they paid ransom, shouldn't
the
government lie to us?
It does not matter.
If they lie to us.
He said it. There are certain things that you cannot discuss.
So let me ask you.
Covert operations are not meant for public consumption. You cannot, there are certain things you cannot discuss. You don't discuss security matters publicly. So you wouldn't know what happened. You wouldn't know what happened.
You see, is it that the government or you politicians are politicizing the security matter?
No, it's not. It's not.